Right, I'd like to now come to Mashale Phumaphi from Shumba Energy, Managing Director of Shumba Energy, to address us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. At Shumba Energy, we're focused on developing IPP projects to supply power into the region and into domestic market. Now, our premise is that we want to focus on cheap, long-term sustainable energy. And the reason for this being is that unless you've got cheap electricity and it's sustainable in the long term, it's very hard for us to get to that industrial growth that we're all looking for. So the shortage in the region is quite severe. The gentleman before me mentioned 3,000 megawatts. One thing we need to bear in mind, that 3,000 megawatts is once all the expensive emergency power supply is online, and this is not taking into account that for a healthy system you need quite a good reserve margin. So we believe that the deficit is substantially more than that. We've chosen to place our projects in Botswana because it's very centrally located in the region, but also more importantly, the transmission backbone is very good from Botswana into whether it's South Africa, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and other countries. One other advantage that Botswana has is that it's fiscally very stable and politically very stable, so its credit rating is quite good, which means that when it comes to funding these highly capital-intensive projects, you can get money a lot cheaper, which directly translates into lower tariffs. One thing that we've always focused on is, unlike other companies in the commodity sectors that are exposed to the huge fluctuations that we've seen globally, just looking at the regional power market and deficit, the tariffs for Eskom alone are up 300% in the last 7 years. And we don't see that changing much soon, given the lack of access to electricity, the planned development plans, and also, of course, the poor infrastructure getting power to where it needs to be. In terms of market as well, South Africa has recently come out with a cross-border allocation of 3,750 megawatts for coal-based generation, and that is quite encouraging for us because Botswana is sitting on a lot of substantial coal deposits, and unlike the coal deposits in South Africa, which have got good access to rail and therefore would not want to be committed to long-term coal supply agreements at a lower coal supply price, in Botswana, the option of export at the moment is not looking viable. So we are very happy to enter into long-term coal supply agreements, 25, 30 year, at prices which are more affordable for the power generation. To get a bit to our assets, we've got two advanced coal deposits. One of them is called the Mabesekwa Export IPP. We've got over 1 billion tons of coal sitting there, easily open pittable. What's important as well is that on that project we've completed our environmental studies for the mine and the power station. We've got the mineral rights, of course, and completed the feasibility studies, but we also have 50-year land lease agreements for the surface rights for both the mine and the power station. We've partnered with a local South African partner or co-developer there who has extensive experiences, has been awarded over 420 megawatts of renewable generation in the last 5 or so years. The Sechaba project is very similar. The only difference there is really that we don't have a strategic partner there. We are developing that more by ourselves. So, we've talked about coal. Botswana also has a very substantial solar resource, which is very comparable to what you have in South Africa. So we are, in the long term going forward, also starting to look at building up our solar capacity. Just to get to how we do business, a lot of our service providers are cross-border, so whether it's legal advice, whether it's technical on both the mine and the power station, or whether it's hydrogeologists, we get a lot of expertise from South Africa, which is quite good for us because there's an abundant well to find projects from. In terms of project timelines, we believe we're about 18 months or so from financial close, and we're well capitalized to take our projects through the development phase. From a corporate perspective, we're listed in both Botswana and Mauritius. We have a lot of institutional investors, mainly pension funds from Botswana, as well as a fairly diverse retail base. Our market cap is around $28 million, which we believe is not representative of the value we've created. But I think the key thing here is that we've continued to be well funded as we're developing, and we look forward to bring our projects to fruition. If there are any questions after this, please feel free to contact me. If you don't have my card, or via the event organizers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mashale. Just a couple of things is maybe in a conference like this, we can also look at some of these financial centers, these financial hubs that are being created. Like, I mean, for a long time now, Mauritius and Botswana have presented themselves as financial hubs, and you as a company have chosen to utilize that. So it's interesting. In fact, one of my clients is a promoter for Mauritius. The other thing is there's so many questions, more questions than answers about the coal in Mozambique, in Botswana. The evacuation of the coal, there was for a long time talk about taking it to southern Mozambique. That seems to have gone very quiet these days. And then, of course, Walvis Bay, the Namibians being very, very keen. So maybe during discussion period, we can maybe talk about that situation, because I've been to a couple of coal conferences in Gaborone, and I must admit I come out more confused than when I walk in. So we just don't have the answers for a lot of these things. There's certainly a lot of coal in Botswana. And of course the Waterberg line, which is also aims to utilize Swazi and Botswana coal, is one of the projects, the Loop Rail project that through the Swaziland, and also the evacuation of exporting of coal from Waterberg. So all of these projects, in the coal game, we're very, very regionally orientated.
Doing business in Africa, you can't afford to be without Africa Investor.